All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast weekly real estate tip. And today I want to talk to you guys about the massive opportunities that currently exist and that will continue to exist during this potential real estate market crash. And the reason why I was inspired to create this real estate tip today is I'm seeing so much fear and so much anxiety within our industry, from realtors, from team leaders, from brokerage owners, from lenders, from, all that are really tied to our industry. And I don't want to say all, but from, a big majority, the different rooms that I'm in on a daily basis in our industry and the different conversations that I'm having, there is just an abundance of, again, fear and anxiety. A lot of people are scared of what's taking place. And I wanted to create a tip, a real estate tip, a podcast, to go out there and flip that around, man, create some positive vibes out there and show you guys, again, the opportunities that exist today and the opportunities that are going to continue to exist. So you can go out there and continue to grow, scale, and dominate regardless of the real estate market itself. And if this is your first experience here with me, with this podcast, just so you know, nothing that I talk about on this podcast is theory. Everything I talk about are things that are proven, things that, I've had success with throughout my real estate career. I've been licensed since 2005, started my team in 2006. And since my team and I have sold over 7,000 homes, coming in the top 1% of team leaders and realtors worldwide, voted 30 top realtor in America by the Wall Street Journal. We continue to grow and scale each and every single year, regardless of the marketplace. So these are things that we've done and that we continue to do regardless of the marketplace. And I'm located here in Phoenix, Arizona, which is one of the fastest shifting, one of the fastest unwinding, one of the fastest correcting markets right now in the United States. Like, we are unwinding fast. The changes that we are experiencing are happening at rapid speed. And we continue to go out there and sell a shit ton of real estate, even during these times. And I just want to break down and talk to you guys about, what opportunities that we are identifying, what we're doing, and how we're going out there and continuing to grow and expand. But before we jump into, the different opportunities and what to go out there, I want to talk to you, specifically about fear, first of all, because I think that this is really important, just to understand why this fear exists. I mean, most of the reasons as to why fear exists is because of the unknown. It's things are changing. And people have a lot of resistance to change. The way I have to do business, what worked, for the last few years isn't working now today. And now I've got this fear of things that are changing and uncertainty of what the future may look like, and so forth. But when we look at change itself, change is one of those things in our lives that is guaranteed. It's always taken place, always has, always will happen, continuing forward. It's like there's two guarantees in our life that things are going to change and we are going to die. Those are the only two guarantees that I know of that exist in life. So why have fear, or why have resistance to something that is inevitable? Instead, embrace it. Understand that it's going to happen. It's going to take place. Our job then is to identify what those changes are and go out there and adapt, pivot, shift accordingly, grow and expand, and always be going out there and changing with the times. So all we're going through is a change, right? And if you look at business cycles historically, there's ups and downs. Recessions are nothing new. So whether it be overall economic recessions or real estate recessions or really, so wherever we're headed, whether this is a correction, whether it's a softening, whether it's a crash, markets and not just real estate markets, but all markets, all asset classes, all business, all industries experience, these ups and downs. It's just how it goes. So then if we know and understand that this is just, an evolutionary or just something that is constant, it's just a natural cycle in the business world. Okay, well then all we got to do is just adjust and shift with the current business cycle. And if we do that and we do that right, we will be good to go. Here's one thing I can tell you, and I can promise you this, is that real estate has always changed hands. It's always traded hands, always has, always will. The only thing that's changed is whom the market is good for. Throughout my whole entire career, whether it's been traditional buyers and sellers, whether it's been REOs, short sales, investors, hedge funds, that's the only thing that's changed, is who the current environment is good for. The last several years, it was great for sellers, really sucked for investor. Well, I guess depending on what type of investor you were, if you were buying whole investor, last couple of years, depending on where your market was, sucked. If you were, an upsizer, it sucked. If you were a buyer, it sucked. It was great for sellers. Now that's transitioning and shifting and changing. It's one of the best times that we've seen, at least in my market, in years for buyers right now in this climate. So we just got to shift and adjust who we're targeting, what our messaging is, and so forth. And then when it comes to, again, speaking to this fear component, if you go into your MLS and depending on how long if you've been in this business a long time, you probably already get this and know this. But if you haven't, go back to the great financial crisis. So 2008 through 2012, which was here in the United States, the worst housing market crash in recorded history. And I can guarantee if you go through your MLS, you are going to find that there were realtors, there were team leaders, and there were brokerage owners that were absolutely fucking crushing it, that were dominating, that were killing it during that time, right? So all you got to do is just pick and choose. Hey, am I going to be one of those that go out there and dominate, that go out there and continue to grow, that go out there and continue to expand and crush it? Or am I going to become one of these statistics that has to, every time the market, has a hiccup or, slightly shifts, changes, or severely shifts and changes, that becomes extinct? Are you committed to your business or not? And if you're committed to that success, get that fear out of your mind, man. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't support you. You need to, when you have that fear on top of your mind, man, it's hard to think clearly. It's hard to see opportunities at hand. It creates anxiety. It forces us into inaction and procrastination, all things that are massively harmful to your business. You need to be in action, right? You need to be taking massive action. You need to have a sense of urgency. You got to be clear-minded. You got to be able to see these opportunities at hand. Each and every day, I want to show up to the office excited, on fire, looking for opportunities with that full certainty that I'm going to go out there and make it. I'm not sitting here saying it's not going to be challenging. Shifts can be challenging. We all go through challenging times. That's the, we jumped in the business world, and that's what we signed up for. There's doesn't mean that it does come or doesn't come with challenges, right? Those are inevitable, but are you committed to figuring that shit out or not? And if not, okay, go get a job. Go drop out of the business, go get a job. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you just got to understand what you're signing up for. But again, the opportunities that exist right now today and that will continue to exist are just absolutely massive. All right. So if we look at that, let's break down, okay, well, who is this market good for? And I'll go through some of these. Right now, though, what we are focused on within my team and what I recommend to be focused on. And again, this depends on what your market is. I'm going to talk about, buyers, and we'll talk about some different ways to go out there and get listings right now. And again, I don't know where your market is at. So whether it's there today or will be soon, Phoenix tends to be, one of the quickest boom and bust markets out there. So we tend to be about 6 months ahead of other markets, but right now here in our market, in a lot of other markets that I'm seeing, is the best market that we have seen for buyers in years, probably since about 2018. So if we break this down, I was just having a team meeting yesterday and we're talking about this. I was talking about this with my agents. I'm like, okay, if you look at 2020 and 2021, and even early 2022, we had an abundance of buyers that were willing to go out there and overpay for these properties, right? Pay much more than they are able today. Depending on the price point, today they might be able to get the same house for $50,000 or $100,000 less than they were getting at that time, right? So we're down about 20% year to date in our overall market. So they're willing to pay much more for real estate over the last couple of years. They were willing to go up against 50 other offers. They were willing to cover the appraisal gap, right? We know those homes weren't appraising and they'd have to come with another 50 or 100 grand out of pocket. So now today, they were having to settle in a lot of cases. We've got over 3 times the amount of inventory, well over 3 times the amount of inventory in our market today. So a lot more to choose from. They can go out there and find their actual dream home today at a much lesser price point. They're able to go out there and negotiate, wheel and deal, get concessions, all things that they weren't getting. But then the common thing that we hear is, oh, well, interest rates are more. Okay, well, you're getting the house for 100 grand less. You're not having to cover, you got your 20% down payment, and you're not having to then come up with another 50 or 100 grand to go out there and cover that appraisal gap. You can buy down that rate and get it to, so even if they do the rate buy down to get those interest rates, close to, so the payments, all in all, will probably be less, after the lower price point. And then being able to do that rate buy down. In a lot of cases, we're getting sellers, whether it be builders, whether it be, iBuyers, whether it be sellers, to go out there and cover that rate buy down. In a lot of cases, we're able to get that because if you're 20% down conventional loan, and check with your lender on this, but a 20% conventional buyer can get in a lot of cases from lenders a 9% seller concession. So they got 3% for closing cost coverage, right? And then they got 6% to go out there and buy down that rate. that puts them in a very good, like a very good position overall, right? You got a low interest rate, 30-year fixed interest rate at that point. And with the house being that much lower, right, their affordability on that house is less than or better for them now than it was in the last couple of years. So if we look at, factoring in all of those things, it's so much better today for a buyer to buy now today than it was over the last several years. Here's the thing though, is because a lot of people just attach to what they're hearing on Main Street, whatever it is, like it's a psychological game, right? Like, a lot of buyers, like we had all these people wanting to go out there and buy in that time, an abundance of buyers. Now, when we're having conversations with people, it's, well, I don't want to buy because of these reasons. Well, you wanted to buy 2 years ago or a year ago. And even though right now is a way better situation, now that of course, they've got to still have their job, making good income, and so forth with that. Like we want to, be responsible with this. But it's our job as real estate professionals. And this is, I'm just going to talk to you and share what I was sharing with my teammates the other day. Like you can make up your own conclusions on this, from this, but I believe, and this is what I was telling my agents yesterday, it's our job to go out there and communicate the right messaging with our potential clientele and our, and our current clientele, of course, right? Like we've got to go out there and make sure that we are continuing the messaging, continuing the education, continuing the marketing to demonstrate and articulate that why today is so much better of a time than if they were to buy a year ago, 2 years ago, and show those points. Like a common objection that we're getting right now is all interest rates. Okay, well, I can get you back in that 4% interest rate range all day long today. Whether it's, and I've already shared that with you, like concessions, maybe builder concession, from a new builder, which builders right now today are massively desperate, so we can get them to play ball. They're probably in the most vulnerable position out of anybody right now nationwide. So like, hey, we got builders willing to play ball all damn day long. We just got one under contract the other day that we were able to negotiate down $80,000 off that builder, one of my agents, right? So builders, we got an abundance of iBuyers are sitting on insane amounts of inventory in our marketplace. Open Door, last time I checked, was like 11% of our listing inventory, but only accounted for about 3% of sales. So I'm guessing they're in a, kind of shitting their pants right now too. So they're willing to wheel and deal. And then also just sellers that, are in a desperate or maybe incentivized position to go out there and move, and do that and getting those concessions. So all those things are very, very solvable, but it's having that understanding. Like a lot of people right now are thinking, oh man, maybe now is not a great time to buy just because of interest rates. Think deeper. It's the best time to buy that we've seen in the last several years. Now, I had this question the other day. Somebody asked me, they said, well, how in good conscience, can you go out there and help people go out there and buy, with your belief that the real estate market's going to crash? And I was like, that's a great question. And we have those conversations with our clients. It's not like I'm going to go out there and try to manipulate anybody. And like, I'm going to give them all the information so they can make their best educated decision for themselves and for their families. So if I have somebody that comes to me today and says, hey, we want to buy, but we think we're going to have to sell probably the next 3 to 5 years, that the probability of that is very high. Well, I would probably then, not that I probably would then, I 100% would then, make sure they're educated on where this market is going. And that my belief is, my professional opinion is that within 3 years, the real estate values might be lower than they are today. We don't know for sure. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but the way things are going, and all the signs and indicators, at least for my due diligence, point that those valuations will be lower in 3 years than they are today. So they won't have the equity to go out there and do that. However, if there's somebody that's looking at this for a long-term position, man, if this is going to be their home for the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever, the way that real estate was, really, if you look at primary residences, is the way that this was intended to be, that you'd be in your homes for a longer term position. You get those paid down, and eventually, once you're in your final home, you get that paid off, and you could step into retirement without having, a mortgage and so forth, So if they're in there for a longer term position, well, then historically markets go up and down. It's just like, if I'm investing my 401k and I plan on, continue to invest in for over the next 30 years, and I don't need to start drawing for that money for the next 30 years, like I'm not going to pay attention to it day by day, month by month, over time. Like we know it's going to go up over time, right? And I'm not a paper asset expert. So, I'm just using that as an analogy, right? So we're having those conversations with them, however, though, if they are looking for a long-term position right now, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. Like I'm a buyer today. I'm out there looking at property right now. I'm a buyer right now today in this market, even though I believe that the market's going to come down some more, but it's the timing is the best that I've seen in the last 3 or so plus years to go out there and buy. Okay, now the second people that this market is great for. Now, let me take a step back. Now, with what I just said there about buyers, where we're having the most success, not just, getting new buyer leads, but tapping into our database and following up those leads that are 1, 2, 3 years old. And these are, buyers that maybe for whatever reason, they didn't take action, right? And a lot of these that we're having conversations with, it was, well, inventory was so low, we were having to settle and we couldn't go out there and find our dream home. So we just decided not to take action. Some of those are, hey, we were out there trying, but man, after the 10th offer and getting beat out on that 10th home, we just got discouraged, got disengaged, and just, took a pause, and then there's some of those that were like, hey, they were solid buyers, 20% down. They got, 100 grand down putting down on a house. They just didn't have another 100 grand laying around to cover that appraisal gap. Well, now that, okay, well, all those problems have been solved. So we're just articulating that out there, to buyer clients in this market. So like right now, like our number one focus of my team right now is going after buyers in this market because they're in control and for all those reasons that I just shared. Also for upsizers, if you look at declining markets are the best hands down for upsizers, right? So, okay, let's just say the home that they're selling, that they're moving out of to move up to that next home. And let's just say this one's at 350 and they're moving up to a $600,000 house. Well, if our market's down 20% year to date, well, that 20% off 350, yeah, they're taking a hit here, but 20% off 600 is a hell of a lot more and substantial than 20% off 350, and because they're moving up, the higher the price point, the softer those markets are. So usually we're able to get out there and wheel, deal, and get them to negotiate more and more and more on that. Now, question came up yesterday about a particular client of ours that, had some pushback and an obstacle. And they're like, well, if the market's going to continue to decline, why would I take action now? And I'm like, that's a very valid question. And it's, it's up to you to make the decision on when timing is going to be. But one thing to be careful of is if your house dips below 20% of equity that you have in that property to be able to get 20% 20% down payment, on that next property. Now we've missed out on the seller concession rule. Because if you're doing, an FHA loan or a 10% down conventional, whatever, we can't go out there and get those 9% seller concessions, or we're not going to be able to get as much of a rate buy down that we can get the builder or a seller to go out there and pay, for that. So taking that into consideration, plus with interest rates continuing to go up, interest rates, I won't be surprised the way that they're going up right now because of the global kind of this currency crash globally that's taking place, and Japan, a lot of these countries in the EU having to being forced to go out there and having to sell off treasury bonds. That's the number one reason why mortgage rates are going up at the rate they're going up right now and continue to go up, because those treasury bonds have to be sold. So Treasury Department is offering more lucrative yields on those treasury bonds, and the buyers of mortgage-backed securities are buying those instead. So I'm not going to be shocked if interest rates on mortgages aren't 10% within the next 6 months at the rate that this is going. So we're, educating on that. So like right now for an upsizer, the timing is perfect for anybody that's thinking about upsizing right now, to go out there and buy. And look, I'm not going to say that it won't be better for them in the future than they were right now, but trying to time out markets perfectly for the absolute prime situation is very difficult, if not impossible. It's something that not even Warren Buffett's of the world try to go out there and do. It's just hey, is the timing good? Is it really good right now? Yes or no? Okay, it might be better if we would have waited in 2 years, but it's still a damn good time. Timing the markets for the perfect scenario, perfect situation is almost an impossibility. All right, so then let's transition into seller opportunities. All right, so if we look at short-term rentals right now, so your Airbnbs, your Verbos, they're at all-time low nationwide, at least here in the States, all-time low occupancy rates. So vacancy rates are skyrocketing. They're getting crushed, so, and I heard a stat the other day, 50% of short-term rentals, so your Airbnbs, your Verbos, and so forth, acquired these properties in the last 2 years. And a lot of the financing that was done with these were non-conventional financing. So through syndications, some of these have floating rates, so when they start looking at that, they bought this and let's just say they're getting 50, 60% occupancy on a month-over-month average. Now they're getting 10%, which I think is about what most are getting right now, just because the overall economy, people are traveling less, whatever. There's going to be a big percentage of those that are getting crushed, that are getting hindered, that need our help to go out there and sell those properties, because again, if anybody's thinking about selling anytime in the next several years, now today is the best time to sell. Like, this thing isn't going to turn around. And when I say this is my prediction. And this is the advice that I'd give to, a friend, family member, client. Like, if you want to sell and you want to capitalize on equity, and equity is important to you, and you need to maximize on that equity, you need to be selling now. Like, this picture isn't going to get better for you for any time, maybe in the next decade, right? So, okay, we got short-term rentals, got investors in general. So those that, but especially anybody that bought in the last couple of years, look at my market, we've got real estate prices being suppressed as well as rental rates being suppressed. So, average rent was like $2,800, last year. Now it's like $2,200, so depending on their cap rate and what they bought and what their current expenses are, a lot of them are not even breaking even at this point and getting to that point where they need to unload this and dump that. Unfortunately, bad investment, because during times like we just saw the last couple of years, so many operate from this FOMO, this fear of missing out. So they make stupid freaking decisions, when it comes to going out there and acquiring assets. And this isn't just, for real estate, it's all assets, right? It's like, people that were running to buy Bitcoin at, $60,000, right? And, nowadays it's what, 20,000. So, a lot of people just get that FOMO taking place. They go out there, buy that, thinking it's going to be a big long-term future equity play. Oh, real estate's going to continue going up forever because of inflation, which, if you've been following this podcast for a long time, I've argued that was, not the mentality to be operating by for a long time now on this, which I know that was the common narrative that a lot of people bought into, so, a lot of investors that need help, with that. Second time home buyers. So, a lot of people, especially in the baby boom generation, we're going out there and buying second homes, third homes. Well, now that inflation is continuing to go up and up and up. They're on fixed incomes, a lot of these people. A lot of them are going to get in that position if they're not already there, where they got, instead of having, a second home, they got to kind of just, hey, here's where we're going to park ourselves primarily, especially as, stock markets go down, pensions go down, like they're getting hammered on those sectors. So that's a huge market right now to go after, and will continue to grow and expand going forward. And then just baby boomers in general, if we look at, the average baby boomer is about 65 years old. I think the average baby, almost all baby boomers will kind of be stepping into that retirement, years within the next couple of years. Most are on fixed incomes. I mean, if you just look at the stats, you only got 2% of Americans today that at the age of 65 or older can retire without being reliant on the government or family to take care of them. So the cost of life, with inflation going up and inflation continuing to go up on necessities of life, it's making those fixed expenses that much tougher, where a lot of them might be in a position where they need to go out there and downsize and find something that's more affordable. Okay, now we're also seeing the rise of FSBOs, right? So, I mean, it's tough for just regular sellers, that are listing with a great agent to go out there and sell. So FSBOs, they're not going to have that same success that they had over the last couple of years, where could really just throw a sign in the ground, anything would sell. So FSBOs, there's a huge opportunity for these, as FSBOs are rising, to go after these FSBOs that maybe, didn't see the need in our service the last couple of years, but a massive need there. We got rising expireds continuing to go up and up and up, that need our help. So then from there, if the market gets severe enough, meaning this correction or crash gets severe enough, we'll start to see the introduction of short sales and REOs, which will be continuing more opportunities to go after. Now, if you are a team leader or brokerage owner, my advice to you, depending on, if you're in production, not out of production, or a combination of both, but either way, is to recruit. You are going to see average agent production go down, probably already are. And how you make up for that. Now, go out there and make sure that you're pouring into your people, you're training them, you're doing everything that you possibly can on that front, keeping them inspired, training them, like go out there and double down on all of those things right now. But how you make up for that lower production, the average agent production going down, which we're going to see for a little bit of time now, is to go out there and it's through recruiting through numbers, man. It's go out there and recruit. Because here's what I can tell you, man, is agents right now, and will continue to, this isn't just an immediate now thing, but getting through this, agents are going to need amazing leadership. Now, if you're a shitty leader and you don't care about your agents, you don't care about their production, well, you probably shouldn't be in this role in the first place. So if you're watching this, I know that you do care about your agents, and you do care about providing that leadership. Agents need that leadership right now. So make sure that you guys are getting excited. I know I already talked about this earlier, but if we break this down, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I'm like, what's the alternative? And this was somebody in the real estate industry. I'm like, what's the alternative? to go out there and keep letting this fear and anxiety get to you. That's putting it in action. That's getting you depressed and whatever. That's distracting and blocking you. I'm like, what's the alternative? Well, you get to a point where you got to become a statistic, drop out of this industry, quit this industry, become a statistic, go get a corporate job. I'm like, everybody that I know in the corporate world, at least a corporate gig that's paying good money, that might be, somewhat semi-equivalent to what you can make in real estate. I mean, it's, if you push it to the highest level in this business, you can't find any corporate jobs, well, I shouldn't say that. I guess you can if you become a CEO of a big organization, but there's going to be, very, very few jobs. It'd be hard to find what you can make in this industry. But let's just say, you're making, $200,000 a year, okay, go with it. Like you look in the corporate world, man, everybody that I know that is making a couple $100,000 a year in the corporate world is slaving away right now. The amount of stress, the amount of, okay, so you're going to leave this industry. You're going to jump over to the corporate world. You're going to have more stress added to you. You're going to have to work more hours, and you're that much more vulnerable because, dude, like these big businesses, second they start getting hurt here, they're going to start laying off, and we're already seeing the beginning stages of massive layoffs taking place, and it's just going to get worse. So, like, what's the alternative? Like, we're already in the best vehicle. We're already in the best position, the best vehicle. So get excited about it. Get excited about the opportunities to be had, and go out there and take massive action. And again, go out there and make sure to embrace that change, embrace the market itself. Just go out there, shift, pivot, adapt, understanding that there's massive opportunities to be had regardless of the marketplace. If you look at down markets, great agents make more money in down markets. It's just a fact of how it goes. There's more millionaires and billionaires created in down markets than there are good times. So just understanding, and again, getting excited about it. There's going to be so many opportunities to be had. But don't think about, I got to wait for these opportunities, because there's massive opportunities to be had right now already today. So capitalize on the opportunities that exist right now. Get excited about the opportunities that are coming. Work your ass off. Stay focused. Don't operate from fear. And if you are looking for some additional training on this, I highly recommend, I'll have a link below that you can connect with, or you can go to gsdmode.com. And on there, you will see I've got a 3-hour in-depth masterclass training, which is six fundamental steps to shift and pivot during this market change right now. So you spend 3 hours going through, all of this different stuff, massively in depth. It's 100% free training, no strings attached. Highly recommend to go check that out, gsdmode.com. All right, guys, I hope that you found this helpful. Keep crushing it, and we will talk to you soon. Peace.